Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Take 5. It is Sunday, September 4th, 2011. We are in Mark chapter 10, verse 32. And they were on the road going up to Jerusalem, and Jesus was walking ahead of them. And they were amazed, and those who followed were afraid. And taking the 12 again, he began to tell them what was to happen to him, saying, See, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be delivered over to the chief priests and the scribes, and they will condemn him to death and deliver him over to the Gentiles. And they will mock him and spit on him and flog him and kill him, and after 3 days he will rise. This is some bad things that's going to happen to Jesus. One of his very best friends is going to betray him, and he doesn't mention that here, but that's how he gets delivered over to the chief priests and the scribes. We know that. Alright? Then it's the chief priests and scribes, the religious leaders, that condemn him. And they turn him over to Pilate, the Roman official at the time, and he deals with him and has his soldiers flog him and crucify him. And then, on the third day, he rises again. Jesus is telling all these disciples this so that they will know when they see it happen, they will know this was part of God's plan. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a coincidence. This was all part of God's plan, and Jesus understood it. And I'm telling you, you may have had some severe things happen to you. Perhaps you've had one of your best friends betray you. Perhaps you've been mistreated and condemned by religious, prideful leaders. Maybe even in your own church. So much so that you were really better off being treated by people in the world. But then people in the world treated you bad too. People who aren't Christians, people who don't have the same values you do. And they've treated you bad. Maybe you got fired on the job. Or the government came after you for some reason. But anyway, all these things went bad for you. What I'm trying to tell you is, believe it or not, and it's hard to imagine, that's all part of God's plan for you. Jesus wanted these guys to see that everything happening to him was part of God's plan. I want you to see that everything that is happening to you is also part of God's plan. And there are several reasons it may be happening. Perhaps it is simply so you will know that your faith is real. That's talked about in 1 Peter 1. Perhaps so it is you will cry out to God more, and we see this in the Psalms and other places. Perhaps it is so your character will be refined and be stronger, and you will grow in your patience. We see that in James chapter 1. So there are all kinds of reasons this could be happening. But there's good news at the end of it. Just as Jesus ended this little passage with the fact that he would rise again, the good news is for you, you will also rise again. You're going to be in heaven with God forever. But all these things are going to, according to Romans chapter 8, verse 28, work out for your good. Eventually. Eventually. It takes time, see? It's not going to necessarily work out for your good tomorrow, or today, or next week, or next year. But eventually it will work out for your good. One day you will be able to look back and say, wow, I could not believe how all these things worked out and how this was all part of your plan. Thank you, God. That's the point. Jesus wants these guys to see this was all part of God's plan. And I want you to see everything that's happened to you, good or bad. Maybe you're going through a season of a lot of blessing right now. This is all part of God's plan for you. So no matter what's happening to you, whether it's good or bad, hot or cold, short or tall, plentiful or not so much, whatever's happening to you, say thank you, God, for it, because I know I'm in your hands and I know this is part of your plan. Alright, that'll help you deal with life a lot easier, I think. Come back tomorrow for the next edition of Take 5.